Hello, hello! Put on your 3D glasses, because today we're entering the third dimension. That's right, I'm going to be working in Blender today. I recently finished up a class all about Blender, and I've got to say I really love it. From my past experience with 3D, I didn't think it was something I could do, but thanks to having a great teacher, I'm happy to report it's a blast. I'll get a little more into that stuff later, but for now let's get into the challenge. About a year ago, my family adopted a stray cat from a shelter, and we named her Rosie. I've never owned a cat before, so it's been so exciting and sometimes a little nerve-wracking. With Rosie's Gotcha Day anniversary coming up, I wanted to do something super special and Rosie-themed. And that's when it hit me. I should turn Rosie into a blind box art toy. To those unfamiliar, brands like Pop Mart and Tokidoki have been making collectible toys and figures for many years. There's all sorts of different characters and themes, and they're really cool. I have a few myself, but only a few since these guys can really add up. So I'm going to create 8 different Rosie figurines inspired by her adorable personality and some of my own little headcanons of her. This project is going to be particularly challenging since for me, my biggest struggle in class was character modeling and posing, so this is in a way my Blender redemption arc. Alright, and with that, let's get to sketching. The first step of this project was creating a mood board of different toy series that inspire me and would make for good reference. I also needed to gather some reference images of Rosie, but thankfully I already had a few thousand in my phone. For my first round of sketches, I decided to shift my style inspiration to classic Hello Kitty and the characters from Tabeko Dobutsu, which is a famous line of animal crackers from Japan that are super tasty. I really wanted to keep all my shapes very clean and simple, while also keeping everything very cute. I ended up doing most of my initial sketches off screen since I was keeping them loose and really messy. For modeling characters, it's good to have at least a front and a side view, so I went ahead and did a clean version of those. I make it a point to use lots of round shapes since round equals cute, and to play around with the size of things. I end up giving her some super big ears because I just find them so adorable. They're just about the same height as her head, so I think this creates a nice balance and rhythm. I keep all her limbs super simple to keep in line with the style we're going for, and maybe just make my time rigging her a little less excruciating. And after a little more playing around, here's our Rosie design. She's so cute! I feel like I really captured her sweet yet mischievous nature. Now, let's get to the exciting part, designing the figures. With our base design done, we can sketch out our 8 different Rosie figures. Blind boxes usually range from 6 to 12 variations in a series, so I figured 8 would be a happy medium. For the first design, I gave Rosie a snack bag with her favorite dry food inside. I jokingly call them potato chips a lot, since that's kind of what they're the equivalent to, so I thought it'd be funny to put them in a little chip bag. Next we have Rosie looking regal sitting atop a throne. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory to any pet owner, but she's pretty much in charge of things in my house. For the next design, Rosie loves sleeping in goofy positions, so I wanted to do one of her sleeping with one of those big anime nose bubble thingies. I thought this one would be fun for introducing different finishes of materials, but we'll get to that in a bit. The next design is of Rosie going for a jog. I don't know about your cat, but Rosie gets the zoomies at least once a day, so I thought it'd be cute to turn her into a little runner. Next, we have Rosie as a ballerina. One of her silly poses is sticking out her arms like a ballerina, so I always joke that she's dreaming about doing ballet. Plus, putting her in a cute little tutu just sounded too precious not to do. For our next design, we have Rosie as a superhero. Like the ballerina one, she likes to sleep with her arms and legs stretched out like Superman, so this one felt fitting. For our 7th figure, I wanted to focus on Rosie's super affectionate side. She loves giving kisses and play bites, so I wanted to do one with lots of big hearts. I decided to have her giving one of her toys a hug, a little stuffed mouse she uses for a pillow. Sometimes I even catch her giving it a bath, so I think they're pretty good friends. For our last design, I decided to dress Rosie up in a cute little outfit like she's ready for a day out. She of course needed a cute dress and a little bag inspired by her mouse toy. With the colors, I tried to make each figure feel unique while also fitting in nicely with the others. And with that, our sketches are done! I know these are pretty messy, but I think this is just enough info for modeling, so without further ado, let's get into Blender. Let's start by sculpting our base model. I bring in our front and side view with the full turnaround up in the sidebar. I start out by blocking in the largest shapes using round cubes and cylinders. After the big shapes are in, I start adding in the details like her cheek fluff and her ears. I wound up using a plane with a solidify modifier for her ears, so I would have an easier time getting that thin shape I was going for. Realizing I forgot her tail, I get that in there with a cylinder. With that, it was just getting everything smooth and adjusting a few little things here and there. And with our base model done, it's time to get to the fun part, adding colors! Once I get the UV straightened out, I start texture painting on the different features. I mapped them out roughly in Blender so I could save them out and do them in Clip Studio instead. I've found doing image textures in Clip Studio works better for me because it allows me to do everything super cleanly. With the colors loaded in, it was time to get to the scary part, rigging. For rigging, I first tried bringing my model into Mixamo, which is a website that automatically rigs your model for you. Unfortunately, it ended up being really wonky and completely unusable. I ended up following this tutorial by Ksenia Starkova, as well as this one by Evasculpts. I'm glad I did a simple character for this project because I feel like rigging is one of those things that's easier to start small when you're just learning. After getting my rig attached to the model, it was time for the other scary part, weight painting. Weight painting for me is one of those things that kind of messes with my head. Basically, this big old gradient is telling the rig what parts should be affected by which pieces of the model. I know, right? This ends up being mostly trial and error for me, and I end up having to make a bunch of adjustments to the weight map for each individual figure. I end up spending way too much time on the steps, so let's speed it up so we can get to the next part. Yay, we got through the scary stuff! The next thing I did was set up my lighting so each of the figures would be lit the same. This was going to be my first time using cycles to render, since I wanted to go with that super crisp kind of look, so I switched over to that and got everything adjusted. Lighting is definitely not my strong suit, so if I'm doing something super silly here, sorry. Okay, that was a lot. But now we're finally ready to start working on each figure! Let's go! Woo! Time to make some toys! I worked in order from simplest to most complex, so I started off with the Sleeping Rosie. For this one, I first got the base model into place, and then modeled the cute little nose bubble. Once everything was roughly placed, I went back in and fixed the weights so it didn't look all weird and chunky. With the geometry fix, I went back into Clip Studio to change her face to a sleeping expression. I got the new face loaded into Blender and then set up my camera so I could render out an image of the finished model. With one under our belt, I felt pretty confident and was excited about the next 7. Since the process is pretty similar for the other 7, let's do a fun montage of the rest of them. This montage feels like a great spot to pop in, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. I know up till this point I've posted videos about 2D art, so I appreciate you letting me explore some other mediums. A big reason why I wanted to make this video is to hopefully encourage someone else to try something they wrote off as too hard or not for them. I really thought 3D was something that was just not for me, even though it was something I found interesting. A few years back, I had taken a 3D modeling class, and the teacher and I didn't mesh very well. His approach to 3D was making everything perfect and life-size and photorealistic. And that's great for him, but as you can tell from my work, that's not really what I'm into. So I unfortunately got the impression that that's how 3D was, so I wrote it off as not my thing. Fast forward to a few months ago, I found my whole opinion on 3D flipped on its head. My new teacher was super laid back and wanted everyone to explore whatever approach to 3D suited them. I also felt a lot more comfortable making mistakes and experimenting with different things, which for me is a very important part of learning. Whenever you start out something new, you're a beginner and it's gonna be rough for a while. My old teacher having that perfectionism approach made me feel inadequate and really uninspired to learn. So whatever it is that you might want to try, whether it be 3D modeling or maybe even something like an instrument, just remember you're a beginner, and as long as you keep trying, you'll do amazing things. And with that, we've got all 8 Rosies! They came out so cute! I do wish I had adjusted the amount of polygons on the base model, since it looks a little bit chunky still. But that's something I can keep in mind for next time. I think my favorite one has to be the Queen Rosie. I love her little smug face and that big old chair she's in. Now that we have our figures, we need a box to put them in, right? So let's dip our toes into the unfamiliar world of packaging design. I grabbed some reference images from some different unboxing videos to start off. For this part, we'll need a logo and graphics for the sides of the box. We also need a name for this series, so I decided to go with Everyday's Rosie. I think it's a nice reference to the designs being different things she does throughout the day, as well as a reference to that old saying, rose-colored glasses, since she makes every day better. I start by figuring out my colors. I definitely want lots of pink, and I decide to bring in some red too. I keep the logo pretty simple for this. I use 2 different fonts and bring in some of the different reds and pinks into it. I want the box to feel very feminine and girly, so I go with some pink gingham and a lace design. I put the Heart Rosie figure on the front, since I felt like that one showed her personality the best, and the colors went really good with the logo. For the side of the box that shows the different options, I decided to have the Queen Rosie figure be a secret one, since that's a very common thing with blind boxes. It really varied what was on the last 2 sides of the box. Some had information, while others had photos of the figures. I decided to make one side focus on the ballerina figure, and the back have some totally legit product information. With our rough sketch done, it's time to make the final version of the box. Overall, this part was really fun. It was cute imagining what the whole thing would look like if it were real, and made me hope I'd get to design a real figure series someday. I also never knew how fun packaging design was. It's just so cute and fun to do. And with our box design done, our Rosie blind box toy design project is complete! That was a mouthful. This ended up being quite an undertaking. I usually have about 5 to 6 hours of footage to go through for my videos, but this one had over 15 hours. Even though it was really challenging and there were parts I got really frustrated, I'm really happy with the results and proud of myself for finishing it. And thank you for sticking with me till the end. This was a long one, so I appreciate you coming along for the journey. If you had fun, hit the like button and maybe even subscribe for more silly art challenge videos. Before we go, let's check in with Rosie and see what she thinks. What's that? Yeah, did I make it just for you? She's... No. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day. Cue the shiny new outro.